Hello everybody, I am Jared Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be watching Turkish Husband Ancestry DNA Results by Keisha Zone. I am not familiar with this channel. It is a pretty small one, 13.3 thousand, so I mean small, but you know. I'm doing this reaction because I recently did a poll on what DNA results would you like me to react to, and I put 5 options up. Turkish was one of them, and that was the number one. So we're going to do this one first. And if you'd like to be part of the next poll, be sure to subscribe to my channel and you'll be able to get updates, especially community updates with polls. Now, this channel seems to be a beauty channel, but I don't know much about her, and it seems to be about her husband, so I definitely don't know anything about him other than he must be Turkish. Assuming that he's fully Turkish in the fact that all of his grandparents were born in Turkey or from Turkey, then he may have a major mix of all sorts of stuff. I would expect probably some sort of West Asian. I would also expect probably some sort of Eastern European, maybe even Balkan. And I also wouldn't be surprised to see any sort of like North African, Mediterranean. You know, I mean, Turkey's one of those places where so much trade, so many migration patterns have gone through there that, you know, it's serious. It's a serious melting pot. So I think this one should be pretty interesting. But before we do jump into the video, please be sure to give this a like. It really does help me out. Also, be sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications on future videos. But with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into the video.
Hey guys, it's Keisha from Keisha Zone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sitting here with my husband Benjamin and we're going to do another Ancestry DNA test. But we're going to do your Ancestry DNA test.
If she's already done one, I'll need to look and see where it is so I can add that to my list of other videos to react to. Comment below if you've seen it, if you think I should react to it.
She says that because she already saw the results.
Yeah, he got his results in yesterday, I want to say like at 10 or 11 p.m.
I'm 99.9% Turkish. I'm 100% positive with that. And then it's going to be, you know, 1% or 0.5% of something. So I've done a lot of research on my own family tree because I've started the tree several months ago. So I was able to kind of get to the bottom of some things. Originally, I'm from Turkey. That's where my parents are from. Doing a lot of research, it seems that they belong to the Turkish group that's called Yörük. It pretty much means a traveling person. So knowing that, or at least that's what I'm hearing, the story is that we're originally from Central Asia, like Mongolia area, and then we traveled all the way, and it resulted into us ending in Turkey. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's any countries that's in between, which is, you know, it'll be the Middle East, Central Asia, West Asia, maybe the Caucasus as well, wouldn't surprise me. Anything else would really surprise me. So if there's any country in Africa, any country in West Europe, Aboriginals, those would all shock me. If any of those, or Jewish would also shock me because I've never heard of that.
There were multiple Sephardic Jewish communities in Turkey and also other multiple areas that were part of the Ottoman Empire. A lot of those Jews actually being Sephardi Jews who had immigrated from Iberia before 1492 mostly. So a lot of these Jews, some of them dating back to the 1300s, whether or not any sort of Jewish might show up in this ancestry, in these DNA results, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. But that would really just be based off of the general sense of knowing that there were Jewish communities in what's present-day Turkey. But if he's coming from a population group that's in Turkey that really didn't have any sort of connection with any of the Jewish communities, or, you know, they weren't even really like neighbors or lived in any areas that were, you know, near Jewish communities, then it would make less sense. So if I were Turkish and wanting to do my DNA results and better understand them, that would be something I would definitely want to know. the history of Turkey in depth, the population groups, and especially the population groups that have come through the areas that my family are from. Although the best way is building a family tree just like he actually did. So he's going about it the best way there is. Build the family tree, understand the family history better, and then you can understand the percentages better. All right, I should stop rambling. So keep going.
So, what is the percentage that you think, not listening to me and all the like poking I have been doing today and yesterday, what is the percentage that you think that you are Turkish?
It should really be 60-70% minimum. And that's me being nice. It's probably...
I don't know if Turkish is its own population group on Ancestry. I think that's where they tested. It's what the title says, but I'm not sure. But wherever they tested, I don't know if all of them would have Turkish as an actual population group. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not 100% sure. Just because some countries aren't easily defined because the countries surrounding them, basically the entire region that they are in, are a massive mix of different population groups, and so it's hard to tell them apart. If you come from a country where it's a major mix and it's hard to define someone from your country versus countries that are nearby, your country may not be defined specifically as a population group.
Higher than that, but I'm just gonna say 70-80 maybe, and then it could be some mix with Arab or like I said with Middle East and some Central Asian countries, I guess.
Okay.
That would be again. That would.
She looks like she's ready to pause. She's like, "Okay, I'm done with your guessing. Let's get to the results."
Surprise me, but.
Okay.
So let's go one by one. So
Okay.
Turkey.
All right. Before they go one by one, yeah. Honestly, that all makes sense to me. It all makes sense. Italy, you've got that Mediterranean connection, and I mean, think about the trade routes throughout the Mediterranean, so that just makes sense. Central and Northern Asian, Middle Eastern, Iran and Persia, Turkey, and it just all makes sense. It's all basically kind of that typical history.
So let's go one by one. So
Okay.
Turkey and Caucasus.
Okay.
That's 47%.
Yeah.
That is really that's good. Click on it. Tell me what it says. Wow.
It says primarily located in Armenia, Georgia, and Turkey.
This middle point is where it's heavily, right?
Heavily.
That's what. So it really is majority Turkey.
Right.
So that makes sense. 100%.
What is
47%.
Eskişehir?
It would be right here somewhere, like here. So it would be in that big area.
Okay.
But I do know that we come from like the East Turkey. We then ended in Eskişehir, which is the city that my parents are kind of born and raised.
So this is 47%.
Yeah, that's kind of low. It's lower than what I expected. That is interesting. So what do we got next?
And then I said it's the two highest, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the other that's high?
Interesting.
See, but the thing is he needs to remember that this is covering different areas. So if you look, you'll see that this is also covering Turkey. So yes, when it says Turkey and the Caucasus specifically, they're defining 40 however much percent of his DNA is connected to that group, but they're also defining this huge chunk as being from this Iran-Persia group, which is also connected to Turkey. So to me, it's basically showing that, yeah, the family tree seems to be right. It's all kind of pointing to Turkey, but it's looking like this chunk comes from a different population group that makes up his Turkish ancestry.
Look.
It's just one country, bro.
You're from Iran?
Wow, that's crazy.
Iran!
Wow.
More than 40%, Ben. 44.
Wow. I mean, I did say like Asia, Middle East, so this kind of falls under that category,
Yeah,
but it's strange to see
sure.
it literally just says one country. Usually it's like, oh, it's this region and it has a bunch of countries.
And then the primary.
Yeah, and this just says, no, you're 41% dedicated.
44.
44% dedicated from Iran.
Unfortunately, they're misinterpreting this. He keeps saying it just says one country, just says one country. But if you look at the map, it covers way more than one country. They just define that population group. So it's just one country, Iran, but they say Iran, Persia. So that's kind of the issue that a lot of people I see do have these similar issues in understanding, where they see a reading like this and they're like, oh, well, it has to come from Iran. Well, not necessarily. It's just tied to that population group. But granted, it could actually be from Iran, but there's just not enough information to confidently say that the way that they are.
Wow, that's so Persian. It shouldn't shock me because, they're neighboring countries and in the same region. We have a lot of history. This, again, it falls under the Middle East.
I think it's more
Asia.
the level, like the percentage
I
that's
agree.
shocking.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's,
Middle East, yeah, oh wow, it really is just those two big ones.
Yeah.
Everything else, okay, we're gonna get to that one later. We're gonna get to that a little later because that definitely is interesting.
so Middle East is the third largest.
Middle East is 4%. Central and Northern Asia, yeah, okay, click on it. Okay, so that's where Mongolia is, but I do think that because this is going back a couple hundred years, most likely. We always say we're from Mongolia, but that's
No, I know.
so that can explain it. But it's very interesting because it says Russia, but that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's wrong. But
How do you know? Do you know your family tree perfectly back 300 years? If not, then you can't say stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the thinking a lot of people have, is that, they know, their great-grandparents or their great-great-grandparents, and then they feel like, well, I know it all, so, it must be exactly as I think, but you really don't. I mean, if you think about it, when you think of your ancestry, it's like, oh, I have this tapestry, or I have all this stuff hiding in me. Well, your great-grandparents might have also had some different ancestries hiding in them. Well, you don't always know until you truly have the family history and the documentation to back it up, correlated with that DNA.
so here's the thing. I think Mongolia,
Okay.
and then we took the route. We went southwest. This is how we ended it, because that really explains
He's
it.
doing his own immigration path,
Yeah.
if you're wondering what he's talking about right now.
Yeah, it makes
There's
sense.
China in there. Northern China.
Yeah, he's just coming up with different stories and conclusions, which, it's a hypothesis. It's certainly possible, but he's doing it in the way of like, yeah, that must be it. Yeah, exactly what I'm coming up with randomly must be it. Because maybe this Central Asian comes from a completely different part of your ancestry than wherever, this big chunk of Iran, Persia is coming from. You just never know, really. We can always hypothesize, and you can do different things to try to figure that out, especially like chromosome painting and stuff like that. But you have to do the work. He's just looking at the admixture straight off. So, it's the one thing I always try to say not to do. Don't come to these very specific conclusions just because, oh, well, that makes sense with the DNA and then what I know about history. Yes, it can be a good hypothesis to understand, which I should say, I have had a few comments on past videos where people will be like, you say that they shouldn't come up with assumptions, but then you make assumptions. And I'm not making assumptions. I'm making hypotheses. I'm saying, well, it could be this. Well, it could be that. That's a very different thing than saying, oh, well, it must be this. It could be is very different than it must be, at least for me, so.
But like I said, again, Mongolia is in there, so it's not shocking. It's just strange. That one is weird.
Italy. And
Vatican City?
And pure Italy.
Okay, primarily located in Italy, San Marino, Vatican City, Malta. It's just, it makes sense. It's it's the Mediterranean, and especially it's just a small percentage. So let's say, it says range 0 to 2%. So let's say it's the 2%. It's coming from one ancestor. That would be the equivalent of like a second or third great grandparent or further. So once again, does he know all of his second great grandparents? Because there are 16 of them. So does he know them all? But then even more than that, does he know where all of their parents are from? Because it could just be coming from one of his 16 second great grandparents or one of his 32 third great grandparents. So that's another thing to consider for anyone doing these tests. If you haven't traced your full family tree out, every single line to your third great grandparents, well, any of these things that are hiding in there that you really can't explain could just be from one of those lines where it's just not traced far enough.
And pure Italy.
That is really weird. The Italy part really doesn't make sense to me. The only thing that I'm trying to think of to kind of have it make sense is I've seen a lot of other Turkish people take the DNA test and they get Italy quite often. I'm thinking that with the whole Ottoman Empire being part in that region close to, maybe back in those days.
You think somebody...
I'm surprised he hasn't come up with the whole connection of the Mediterranean, not just migration patterns, but trading patterns, trade routes. That's a major part of the story too.
They dipped.
I think
world.
So.
I mean,
it's just strange. Yeah, that Italy is really weird. %47 Türkiye çıktı. Ben daha yüksek çıkacak zannettim. 47% çıktı sadece. İkinci grubu söyleyeceğim, orada çok şaşıracaksın sen. Hak ettir. %44.
Wow.
Bak, %44 İran.
Ne?
%44 yani Türk olduğum kadar %44 İran.
İran mı?
He?
Ne İran'ı lan?
He, %40.
As I'm watching him tell his mom, one thing that pops up in my mind, what would her results be? Because it'd be interesting to see if his parents tested, would they also get that sort of half and half reading? Because maybe if they both come from a similar community, maybe that's a common thing within the community where their readings are just, they come from a community that's so difficult to define between those two that it's common for them to all get that. The other possibility is that his mom will test, and you'd hope that his dad would test too, and one would get a huge reading of mostly Iran, the other one would get the reading of mostly Turkish, and then you would know, okay, well, one parent represents one side of that, one parent represents the other. But without the parents testing, we don't know. So if Keisha Zone's watching this, I do suggest have his parents test if they haven't. That'd be interesting to see what their results are.
44 çıktı. Ben de şaşırdım. There were two things that I didn't expect on the results, right? The percentage of Iran being so high, and then just Italy in general. I didn't expect Italy to be
in the mix at all.
So it seems like Turkey, Italy, and Greece, they have something in common, and I don't know, I'm not a big history guy, I do know some, but very interesting. So I think this was a great eye-opener for me. When you see the results, there's much more into it, and you see specifics of locations. I think it just increases your will to know more about certain countries. Like Iran, for example, will probably be a country that I'll be doing some more research on. I would definitely recommend a lot of you guys that want to know more about where you're from, or you want to know more about who you are, definitely take the test. It's not that expensive. DNA Ancestry.
I agree with that.
Let's be honest, it's not that expensive when you do it around the holidays, because I feel like right now it's like $100.
Yeah.
But
okay, this video is from 2019. I will say tests today, they're often on sale. It's really common for them to be like $49, $39 sometimes. I think a lot of them are commonly like $70 or something like that. Like, it's pretty easy to find DNA tests under $100 these days, assuming that you're in an area that, you don't have to pay a lot higher cost for shipping.
If you do around like Thanksgiving, Christmas, there's deals and it makes it $49.
We're not going to promote it because DNA Ancestry didn't pay us. So if you want to Ancestry DNA or whatever, if you want to take the test and Google it, you might find other companies. You just try whatever you want. But I do want to conclude and just say I'm not 99.9% Turkish, which is what I expected it. I'm like a real Turkish guy, but so that was a wake-up call for me.
But yeah, other than that, I thank you so much for watching this.
Okay, that was a pretty good video. It was interesting in seeing his results. The downside was the interpretation, kind of doing that, well, it must be this. When I always say, it's much better to, hypothesize. It could be different things. And it's also a good exercise to consider all the different ways that it could be, because there's all sorts of different things. And especially history is much more nuanced than we expect, especially when you consider everyday people. People don't always fit the mold. People will do stuff outside of the typical culture, typical societal structures. So I honestly was not surprised by any of his DNA results, and I'd even wonder what his most recent update would be on Ancestry, which just happened like the other day. Is that 2% Italian still there? Is it higher? Is it lower? Is the reading still kind of like half Iran, half Turkish? Or is it maybe a bit more complicated now? Or maybe even more simplified. Maybe now it's like 90% Turkish. And of course, if he has his parents' test, maybe he'll get more specific answers. And as well, he didn't talk about his matches. So looking at matches, maybe that can be somewhat revealing. So definitely a lot that can be done, but very, very interesting results to see. Well, thank you so much for checking out this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. If you'd like to get access to my content early or even get access to exclusive content, be sure to become a patron of mine on Patreon. Not only will you get access to all of that extra and early content, but you'll also be helping in supporting the channel. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It is completely free to do so. And you can follow me at Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GeneaVlogger. I'm the GeneaVlogger. I'll see you in my next video.